Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. It's the post-game podcast for the Timberwolves win over the Warriors in Game 4. They're up 3-1 in the series. We'll break down another big Anthony Edwards performance, what's been most impressive about Julius Randle today, and also a big game for the Timberwolves bench. Finally, it's all coming. Welcome in. You are Locked On Wolves.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's a Victory Tuesday. The Wolves are up 3-1 in their series against the Golden State Warriors and have a chance to close the series out on Wednesday at home in Game 5. Very unlikely that Steph Curry plays a golden opportunity to put this away and get several days of rest heading into what would then be a conference finals matchup against either OKC or Denver. Today on the show, a lot to break down from this one. It was a pretty well-rounded win for Minnesota. Still a couple areas that, not much to write home about for the Wolves. Still some areas of struggle, but another 30-plus Julius Randle, 30-plus point Julius Randle game, another 30-plus Anthony Edwards game, and some strong supporting cast moments in this one, too. Also some pretty comical moments from the Warriors trying to score minus Steph Curry, which really actually just shines a light on how good the Wolves are as a defense. So I want to talk a bit about that today on the show, too. A big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. All right. So the headline here, I should say the final score is 7 points. If you didn't watch the game, it was a much bigger win than a 7-point win. It was, in fact, a 21-point game with 5 minutes left when Steve Kerr waved the white flag, brought a bunch of reserves in. The Timberwolves never fully did that, although Ant and Gobert were both off the floor at the end, and the Wolves ended up only winning by 7. Some concerning moments down the stretch there as they were, just kicking the ball away. But it skewed a bunch of these numbers, right? Like, we're going to talk about the Wolves bench. We're going to talk about turnovers. It wasn't great early, but it was really bad late when it really didn't matter that much. So it skewed some of the overall box score stuff. So there's a lot to unpack beyond the box score in this game. We have to start, though, with Julius Randle. Julius Randle continues to just have a phenomenal postseason. And I've talked about him on almost every show over the last 3 weeks. And it's just incredible. He had a triple-double on Saturday in Game 3. This time out, he finishes with 31 points. He had 19 in the first quarter. I think he only had 1 bucket in the second quarter, but then he showed up big again late in this game. He knocked down his first 3 3-point attempts in this game. He had 31 points on 21 shots and really set the tone early for Minnesota. The first couple of possessions, the Wolves offense looked clunky. They had a forced shot. They had a turnover. Golden State was up, I think 5-0, 4-0, or 5-0. And then Julius Randle all of a sudden just started doing what he's been doing in the postseason, which is if he's open, he's going to knock down a 3. If he's got a one-on-one and somebody's, trying to crowd him and somewhat take away that 3-point shot, he's going to, get to the middle of the floor, dribble down to the 10, 12-foot mark and hit a tough leaner or fall away, really. That's what he's been doing. And also he's been just putting his shoulder down, getting into guys, including Draymond Green over the last couple of games, especially getting all the way to the basket. And he's hitting these runners off the glass that seem to go down every single time. And it's that assertiveness. And we talked about in the Lakers series, it was about, hey, when they put 2 on the ball with Ant and Julius gets the opposing defense in rotation and they're on their heels, he either gets a mismatch or he gets a rotating, member of the defense. He has to attack quickly and be decisive, take what the defense gives him, and quickly. In this series, Golden State has gone through different phases of how they put 2 on the ball. They generally haven't been as aggressive doing that against Ant. Game 3, they were, but that's also the Julius Randle triple-double game, and Ant was really good down the stretch in that game. In this game, they did a lot more zone, and that was partly what threw Julius off in the second quarter. But in the first quarter, the Warriors were trying to play it a little bit more straight up, and the Wolves were just running the offense to Julius Randle, and it worked great. Not something I ever would have thought I'd be saying, going back to, frankly, when the trade happened in September. But in the midst of November and December, I would not have said, yeah, in mid-May in a game near second round of the playoff series, the Wolves are going to run their offense intentionally through Julius Randle, not just because they have to, not because Ant's out or anything, just because they want to. Like, that's what they were doing. And I talked about this on yesterday's show coming out of game 3, was just playing Ant off the ball has worked so much better for Minnesota. And that was another thing they did in this particular game. And the assist numbers weren't great for Minnesota. The offensive flow wasn't great. I mean, they finished with 22 assists and 19 turnovers in this game. It was a lot more ISO ball. And at times the ball movement was really good, but it was really passes that were leading to drives. And I bet, I didn't pull exactly when all the assists happened, but I bet the vast majority of those 19 assists happened in the middle of the game. Second and third quarter is where a lot of those assists came, no doubt, especially the third quarter when they scored 39 points, because that's when the ball movement was crisp. It was humming around the perimeter, and the Wolves were getting the Warriors in rotation. And Golden State has a really good defense. We talked about that extensively on Monday. Like, this is a really solid, better than solid. Again, since the Jimmy Butler trade, this is, I remind you, was the best defense in the NBA post-trade deadline. And losing Steph doesn't really change that a whole lot. And so for the Wolves to hang 117 on them on 49+% shooting and 47% from three is really solid, better than solid. So Julius Randle's first quarter really set the tone. With all of that, though, Ant got off to a little bit of a slow start. They weren't getting a whole lot else. Like, Conley missed some shots early. Rudy wasn't getting involved. Minnesota was still down a point at the end of the first quarter. Second quarter, the offense was getting going for Minnesota, but the defense, there was no urgency. They weren't getting up into guys. Golden State was getting far too many free drives to the basket. When Rudy was off the floor, the paint defense was non-existent. There was no low man help from Minnesota. It was just the second quarter was really a debacle defensively. They gave up 32 points to a Steph-less Warriors team, and they were about to be down 5 at halftime, except for Anthony Edwards hits a three nearly at the logo over a double team. He got the ball across the timeline with under 6 seconds to play in the quarter, and he pulls up and hits the three just prior to the buzzer, and it brought Minnesota to within 2 and gave them momentum. And I believe that momentum into the locker room and then out of the locker room in the third quarter was a major catalyst for what happened in the third quarter for Minnesota. They outscored Golden State 39-17 in the third. And as I mentioned a minute ago, it was about ball movement. It was about pushing the pace, being opportunistic, and knocking down open shots. And this is where the Timberwolves, Ant really got going, first of all, but then also the bench. And we're going to talk more about the bench here in a minute, but that was a really big piece of what happened in the third quarter of this game for Minnesota as well. And actually, well, yeah, I do want to talk about that. We'll get back to the zone stuff later. So yeah, we'll talk about the rest of the game here, what the Wolves did to kind of pull away the second half. And then I want to get back and talk about a couple of big takeaways, one of which was the Wolves' failure to operate well against Golden State's zone, especially in the second quarter. We'll talk about the role players. We will do studs and duds toward the end of the show. So a lot to get to still here today, and all that is upcoming here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Hungryroot. Everyone in my house always has something going on. It's busy season. It really, frankly, is always busy season, but especially during the NBA playoffs. I do not have a lot of time to go grocery shopping, neither does my wife, or to cook healthy meals at home, and that's why we use Hungryroot. Hungryroot is like having your own personal shopper and nutritionist wrapped into one. They take care of grocery shopping and meal planning, offering personalized recommendations based on your tastes and health goals. I love how Hungryroot tailors your orders based on what you like or maybe what you didn't love. It gets smarter every time that you order, and it helps solve for what should be next in terms of your orders. Their high-quality, nutritious food will help you stick to your gut-friendly, high-protein diet without spending hours planning or whatever it is that you want that is a staple of your diet that's important to you. And maybe the most important thing is that the meals can come together quickly, less than 15 minutes. And it gives you more time for whatever it is you want more time for. If it's just family time, if it's watching more NBA playoffs, I get that completely. Take advantage of this exclusive deal. Get 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA for 40% off and a lifetime free item. Today's episode is also brought to us by our friends at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app either. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, that's when I first realized how much I was spending on food delivery is the thing that got me. Maybe something else for you, but for me, it's food delivery. A lot of times on the weekends, I'll be watching NBA games, whatever it is. And, food delivery is an easy thing. But now with Monarch Money, I can see exactly what my budget is going toward. And that includes some of the things that maybe I shouldn't be spending as much money on. The other great thing about it is the all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps to track different things, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right. So third quarter, Minnesota pulls away. And the third quarter, to me, there were a couple of moments that really stuck out. One was, I just thought the intensity level the Wolves had coming out of the locker room in the third quarter was clearly different than what they were up to in the second quarter. They forced a Warriors shot clock turnover immediately, shot clock violation immediately in the second half. Randle hits an early three, and Golden State did end up they pushed the lead to three. Ant hits a three. And then there's a bit of a back and forth, but again, the Wolves are active. They're up in the Warriors' business on the perimeter. And then all of a sudden, Ant hits that really tough, kind of balances, does the decel thing, sifts through three Warriors, hits that left-handed floater in the paint, draws a foul on, I think it was Jackson Davis, knocks down the free throw, puts the Wolves up three. Then on the other end, they draw an offensive foul on Buddy Hield. The Wolves come down a couple of possessions later. Mike Conley hits a three-pointer, then Ant hits a three-pointer, then Ant hits the step back, the catch and shoot three from Ant off the assist from McDaniels. Next time down, kind of in a secondary break, semi-transition opportunity, Ant has kind of a hesitation, left-hand dribble, step-back jump shot from the left wing, pushes the lead to 12 points, and the Wolves never looked back from that point. In the middle of that run, there was a defensive stretch this happened in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. It was almost identical defensive stretches where it was like Rudy shuts somebody down and then McDaniels shuts somebody down and then Rudy does it again. They were like, I promise you, they were almost copy and paste possessions. One in the fourth quarter was when they were already up basically 20, and it was the Jaden McDaniels block that was initially ruled a goaltend, which was insane that was ruled a goaltend, and then overturned. And then the next possession down, Rudy snatches Draymond's shot out of the air. It was almost, it wasn't quite Kevin Garnett in the second round of the playoffs I think it was against Chris Webber. I think it was Rudy batted it and then grabbed it. Kevin Garnett literally snatched it with one hand out of the air. It was almost as awesome as that. But it was much better that it was against Draymond, and then Draymond proceeded to complain to every official on the floor, on the way down the floor, then at the next stoppage, asking why that wasn't a goaltend. And obviously it wasn't a goaltend. But I digress. That same thing happened in the third quarter, essentially, where, and I don't think it was necessarily as many blocks, but it was wall ups. Like Rudy walled somebody up. Rudy stopped, I think it was Pods on a switch. McDaniels stopped Pods at the rim. And just the length of Jaden McDaniels, the ability for Rudy, which, by the way, my other kind of favorite subplot to this series has been, and we saw this in the Lakers series, dudes that are like, oh, I've seen Luka beat Rudy Gobert off the dribble. I can beat Rudy Gobert off the dribble. And like, to a dude, nobody can. I can think of one Austin Reeves possession in the Lakers series that he beat Rudy off the dribble for a score. Like, guys are not doing this. That, like, he's either blocking you, he's giving you a really tough contest on the perimeter, or he's forcing you into a really tough shot at the rim that you're probably not going to make, or forcing you to maybe some help, probably not. But he's probably just shutting you down. And guys like Brandon Pajemski and Gary Payton II, like, these dudes are not going to score on Rudy Gobert. And yet it's almost like Draymond Green and this like internet phenomenon of Rudy's terrible that people seem to believe. it's like taken over. It's actually helped Rudy. It's worked to the Wolves' advantage because guys actually start to believe it and they think he's overrated. And then they test him one-on-one and they find out why he's a 4-time defensive player of the year. It's absolutely insanity, but it works to the Wolves' advantage because these guys think it's a winning strategy and it's simply not. Yeah, every now and again, is a small going to beat a big off the dribble? Yes. And I said this the other day, Luka Doncic, of course he's going to beat Rudy, one-on-one a decent amount of the time. Incredible offense beats great defense. Some of it, that's how it happens, right? That's how this whole thing works. But bad offense will not beat very good defense. And that's what we keep seeing over and over. And, I don't know. I kind of almost want to go back and watch and keep track of it. Like obviously we can look and see how guys shot against Rudy, but I almost want to watch possession for possession. How many guys just aborted their initial attempt of scoring on Rudy Gobert. Most of them didn't, and they failed. So there were two sequences like this. One was in the third quarter when it was still just a 3-4 possession game. And then the other was in the fourth quarter when it was like a 20-point game and the Wolves were in the process of just completely shutting down, turning the lights off on the Warriors. And I think those are just perfect. They perfectly encapsulate just how good Jaden McDaniels is and just how good Rudy Gobert is. And they are the co-engines of this Timberwolves defense, which because it wasn't as dominant as last year's and because OKC's defense was, frankly, by the numbers, even more dominant this year than Minnesota's was last year, and Minnesota's defense last year was historically dominant, there clearly was a switch that needed to be flipped, and it was a playoff switch. And as much as it was frustrating during the regular season that this Wolves team was too cool for school at times and was like, yeah, we got to the conference finals, we can coast. And they should have won more than 49 games. And yes, the defense should have been better than, what did it finish, 6th in the league or whatever. But that switch has mostly been flipped. I mean, like, I know that there's been some extenuating circumstances in terms of injuries and how things have shaken out. But like, I mean, this team sitting here right now is 7-2 in the playoffs against two teams that a lot of people didn't think they would beat. Would they be 7-2? Like, would they be up 3-1 if Steph played? I don't know. I picked the Wolves to win the series in 6, so they maybe they'd still be up 3-1. So I don't know. Like, you can only play who's in front of you, and the Wolves defense has been incredibly impressive. And Golden State, if it hadn't been for the garbage time, like those guys that came in and decided to play really hard for Golden State, they were stuck on the, like 95-ish points. The Wolves could have easily held Golden State under 100 points for the 4th time in 4 games. If this thing was just a little bit closer, Minnesota hadn't built that 21-point lead in the 4th quarter. Okay, let's talk like overarching key takeaways from this game. Number one has to be related to Randle and Anthony Edwards. And, I spent a lot of time on them already, but I think it continues to be just obvious that they've figured out how to play with one another. And like when it's one guy's turn to initiate and the other guy plays off the ball and then they flip. Most teams, including Golden State, are not going to double Julius Randle. We saw them do it when he got really hot. I think this was like early second quarter, late first, early second quarter when Golden State was just like, let's trap Randle. And it worked. And they got a turnover. He dribbled the ball out of bounds. Like Julius Randle's good for that. He's good for a couple, throwaway passes a game. He had one late. He had one late in the game in game 3. So if they're smart with those doubles, yeah, they could turn Randle over. Same thing with Ant. But if you double either one of them with frequency, you're going to be in trouble with the team that shoots threes as well as Minnesota does, minus game 5 against LA and game 1 against Golden State. And we saw that in this game. And that's, leads me to my next point, which is the Timberwolves bench. Timberwolves bench, like the box score doesn't look good. The starters were all plus minuses, and the bench were all at least a -7. Nas was a -11, a -11. However, so much of that came when this was a 21-point game with 4-ish minutes to go. And it doesn't excuse some of the sloppiness. Nas and Nikhil were both major culprits. I mean, they combined for 9 turnovers in this game, and I bet 5 of those were in the final 5 minutes of the game. It doesn't excuse them for it. But when the game was truly in the balance, they played really well. So, yeah, I know the bench combined for 11 turnovers and only 6 assists between Nas Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. But they played so much better than last time out. Nickeil was 5 of 5 from the field. He actually hit a couple of tough layups in the paint, took the ball to the basket when they needed a basket at one point in the second half on a big play that kind of stopped the bleeding when Golden State had a mini run. Reid was big. I thought he played well. He had 3 steals and a block in this game. And Dante DiVincenzo saw a couple of threes go down. He hit one as the Wolves were extending that lead to 15. I think he got it from 12 to 15 in the middle of the third quarter with a kind of walked into a 3. I thought he played well, even though he still just shot 2 of 7. He was 2 of 4 on threes. He got to the line a couple of times. Collectively, the bench played better. And that is notable to me because as we move forward, granted, if the Wolves are able to close it out Wednesday, which would be huge because if they don't play again until Sunday, I think. I'm pretty sure there's 3 days in between the Wednesday Sunday games. So like you're burning those 3 days off and then you got to play again Sunday. So like if you close it out Wednesday, they're going to get a solid week of rest. So maybe it matters a little bit less, but you play a team like OKC in the next round, who's going to be, who has a bunch of dudes that are all long, athletic, fast, young, and they're going to play hard all the time, or a team like Denver that's just big and going to wear you down and obviously isn't as deep as Minnesota. You need your bench unit to play well. That's one of the advantages the Wolves are going to have over almost any team they play. OKC possibly being the exception, is the bench depth. And to have Nikhil and Dante and Naz starting to play better is super important. And I mentioned the 11 turnovers to only 6 assists. Well, collectively, the 3 of them, they did shoot 4 of 8 on threes. And that is a really important component of what they can do and what they haven't been doing for the most part in the playoffs. So really nice to see them play as well as they did. I want to make one other kind of key takeaway note, and then we'll do studs and duds, and that's how we'll close the show out here today. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our title sponsors at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are well underway. We are, midway through the second round now. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live during the games. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Like, for instance, you want to look ahead to what the Wolves line is against the Warriors on Wednesday. As of right now, believe it or not, Minnesota's 11.5-point favorites at home on Wednesday night against Golden State to close the series out. People think Golden State's thrown in the towel. We will see. Maybe you want to look at an Anthony Edwards prop bet, and maybe you're going to take over in the closeout game. Whatever his point total is, you want to take the over. Or maybe you just want to combine live prop bets mid-game based on how the action unfolds. If it is a close game, maybe the ant over is actually a better bet in that scenario. And you can look at that live. Maybe you have a read on who's heating up just by watching Wolves Warriors. Why not back it up with the same game parlay? And how can there's all sorts of fun, exciting ways to get in on the action during the game in addition to betting ahead of time. New to FanDuel. Well, guess what? It's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. One more bigger picture kind of takeaway from this game. I thought it was actually related to defense. And I guess I already talked a little bit about Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert, but it's also more of a Warriors observation. This Warriors team, like Jimmy Butler was pedestrian in this game, I think would be a nice way of putting it. Like Jimmy Butler was a minus 30 in a game the Wolves won by 7. Nobody else on the Warriors was worse than a minus 18. So Golden State was much worse. And I think a lot of it is because they just play slower with Jimmy on the floor. They're more deliberate. And it's not always a bad thing, but it is when Steve Kerr's whole thing was he wanted to play fast. And I mean, Golden State minus Steph Curry has no shot against the Wolves half-court defense. Buddy Hield was 4 of 11. Like, you're not going to win if Buddy Hield makes 2 threes. I mean, Draymond Green made 2 threes in this game. He also, by the way, he airballed as many threes as he made. So I should have added that to my Draymond note earlier about the goaltending complaining, and Rudy dominated him. But Draymond airballed 2 threes and made 2 threes. So, I guess if that's what you're looking for, 50%. Yeah, actually it was 2 for 6 overall in threes. But anyway, Draymond makes 2 threes. The Warriors make 8 as a team. A couple of those were garbage time. Quentin Post, Guy Santos each hit garbage time threes. So before that, Draymond had a third of the Warriors made threes in this game. Buddy Hield had another third of the Warriors made threes. And Gary Payton and Moses Moody each had to make three. Actually, Moody's was during garbage time as well. So the Warriors just have no shot in the half court. They can't get around the Wolves' length on the perimeter between Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards when he was locked in, which he was not, like, say, second quarter. But besides that, it was pretty locked in defensively. And if Jimmy Butler's only going to shoot the ball 9 times in 34 minutes, you're not going to win. Brandon Podziemski was miserable in this game, about as bad as a game I've seen anybody have that played 30-plus minutes in a playoff game between the Lakers and Warriors and Wolves in these two series. Podziemski was 3 of 14, 0 of 4 on threes, and was trying his hardest to foul bait, and just it would not work. Could not beat Rudy off the dribble. Could not beat Jaden McDaniels. Was getting blocked at the square by Jaden McDaniels. The goaltend that wasn't a goaltend. Like this is where it becomes really clear. I mean, like, Brandon Podziemski is probably a rotation player. Obviously he is literally right now, but like he's a good player. The Warriors have good players, but like Steph covers this. It's just how good Steph is to cover up all these other shortcomings. Because as I said the other day, without Steph, the Timberwolves have 8 of the best 10 or 11 players in the series. I mean, like, would you rather have Brandon Podziemski than anybody in the Timberwolves rotation? No, I don't believe you would. I'm pretty confident about that. What about Trayce Jackson-Davis? Like, I like Trayce Jackson-Davis. I actually think, and I also thought, like, in the first round, Jackson Hayes got a bad rap. But, like, you're not taking those guys, obviously not over Naz Reid. Like, the quality of the Timberwolves top 8, even if it is only a top 8, the quality of 1 through 8 is so much better. And like TJ Shannon, you can't tell me TJ Shannon's not playing rotation minutes for this Golden State Warriors team. If TJ Shannon's on the Warriors, he's playing 25 minutes in this game. I promise you that. The quality of the Timberwolves depth is both an indictment. How obvious that is an indictment on the lack of true depth for the Warriors. And this is a Golden State team that was playing 13 guys earlier in the season, 11 guys regularly or whatever it was back in the fall. And then also a credit to the team building of Tim Conley, the development of Chris Finch and his coaching staff. Just very impressive stuff. Very quickly, studs and duds. Obviously, Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards, they both went 11 for 21 from the field. Randle got to the line 6 times. Ant was only 2 of 3 at the free throw line. He somehow was 6 of 11 on threes. He was 5 of 11 on twos and only attempted 3 free throws. It boggles the mind. 5 assists for Ant, 3 turnovers, 4 boards, 2 steals. Julius had 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. He did have 4 turnovers. So, they combined, as I said, the assist to turnover wasn't good for Minnesota. Randle and Edwards together combined for 8 assists and 7 turnovers. Not great. But the scoring efficiency was good enough that when they weren't turning it over, they were busy shooting greater than 50% from the field and better than 50% from 3. Seriously, I mean, they were 22 of 42 from the field, which is better than 50%. The two of them were 10 of 19 from 3, better than 50%. And they got to the line a combined 9 times, made 7 free throws. Like that, you can withstand 7 turnovers between your 2 stars if they're going to score that efficiently, be better than 50% on twos and better than 50% on threes. You can more than withstand that. Jaden McDaniels for me is the third stud. I know I shouted out the bench and they were good and important, but Jaden McDaniels was awesome. He led the Wolves in rebounding with 13. He had more than twice as many rebounds as any other Timberwolves player. Gobert had 6 boards. Randle had 5. Jaden McDaniels had 13, and 12 of them were defensive. 2 assists, a steal, a block. 10 points for Jaden on 4 of 8 shooting, and it was all in transition or at the rim in the half court. He was 0 for 1 on threes. Like, it was all him getting to the cup. And he did that. He pushed the pace of transition. It was very impressive. I don't have any duds. Gobert, again, was relatively quiet offensively. He only ended up with 8 and 6, 4 attempted shots. He made all 4 of his free throw attempts. He did have a lob conversion. He was active on the glass. You'd like him to be a little stronger at times, but Golden State is still just grabbing and pulling and holding him. And I think he's doing a overall pretty good job. Mike Conley had a couple rough moments, like when the Warriors built a bit of a lead late second quarter. Conley had 2 wide open threes that he just missed. He finished 2 of 6 on threes, 0 of 3 on twos, but he made 5 free throws. He had 5 assists and no turnovers, and he was a team high plus 17. And I thought he was pretty decent defensively. Like, he's still a functional rotation player, and it's another kind of pick your spot situation when it comes to Mike Conley. We talked about that with Rudy versus small ball. Oh, I should point out, I think it was end of the second quarter. I can't remember. I had in my notes where Finch went big with both Nas and Rudy on the floor together. I may dig into that a bit more for tomorrow's show, but they tried kind of zagging and going really big against the Warriors, and I thought that was interesting, and I think it worked. I believe the plus minus was a positive one there, so I'll take a look at that, and we can talk about that on Wednesday's show. All right, that's all I got for you today. This was a really fun game. Basically a blowout win once the Wolves woke up at halftime down a bucket, ended up going up 21 late in the game and finishing off with a 7-point win. We'll preview Wednesday night's game on Wednesday's show. We'll talk about some of those big lineup minutes. We'll also talk a couple other things I didn't get to today that I want to break down. We'll talk about like free throws. Warriors won that category. Warriors won fast break. Warriors won. Well, actually, that one was close. And then offensive glass, like some stuff that are still issues. It's what's allowing Golden State to hang around over the last couple of games. So we'll break all that down. And of course, if there's any Steph news, which I wouldn't expect until probably after Wednesday's show posts, but we'll pay attention to that as well. A big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Again, a thank you for making us your first listen. A reminder for your second listen, you can check out Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night, until an NBA champion is crowned here in about a month or so. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Of course, the Locked On Wolves podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.